Hello everyone. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs notification on 27th October, what it calls the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Third Order 2020, people as well as investors outside Jammu and Kashmir could purchase a land in the Union Territory, ending the exclusive rights of the locals granted under Article 370, now abrogated on August 5, 2019. The centre has repealed or substituted 26 state laws and is most likely to introduce new land laws for the Union Territory of Ladakh soon. The centre has been arguing that Article 370 has actually hampered the development in Jammu and Kashmir since investors outside the Union Territory could not purchase any land there. Under the newly introduced Jammu and Kashmir Development Act, the term being permanent resident of the state under Section 17 has been omitted as a criteria, paving the way for investors outside Jammu and Kashmir to invest in the Union Territory. Further, the government may allow the transfer of land in favor of a person or an institution for the purpose of promotion of health care and higher secondary, senior secondary or specialized education in Jammu and Kashmir. However, no land used for agricultural purposes shall be used for non-agricultural purposes except with the permission of the district collector. Furthermore, under the new provision, an army officer not below the rank of the corps commander can declare an area as a strategic area in a local area only for direct operational and training requirements of the armed forces. The MHA notification shall come into force with immediate effect. However, the political parties, including the National Conference and the People's Democratic Party, have opposed the move. The National Conference Party Vice President Omar Abdullah has said that the laws are unacceptable for the people in Jammu and Kashmir since, according to him, the new amendments have put Jammu and Kashmir up for sale. Mehbooba Mufti, President of People's Democratic Party, has called for the need for the people of the three provinces of Jammu and Kashmir to fight unitedly against the new law. Coming to today's topic of herd immunity in COVID-19, when the total number of active cases stand at more than 1 crore and the deaths recorded more than 11 lakhs across the globe, an international group of 80 researchers have warned that the so-called herd immunity approach in coronavirus pandemic by allowing immunity to develop in low-risk population while protecting the most vulnerable is a dangerous fallacy unsupported by scientific evidence. The open letter, referred to by the authors as the John Snow Memorandum, is published by The Lancet. It is signed by the researchers with expertise spanned across medicine, sociology, virology, public health, psychiatry, psychology, pediatrics, as well public health and mathematical modeling. The authors have warned that there is no scientific evidence of long-lasting protective immunity following a natural infection with the novel coronavirus, that is SARS-CoV-2, and hence this waning immunity will not help us to bring an end to coronavirus pandemic. According to the scientists, if these restrictions are implemented effectively, we can suppress the number of infections in the society to low levels so that even if there are any localized outbreaks, they can be effectively and efficiently detected, and also create positive rapid responses through comprehensively find, test, trace, isolate and support systems, so that life can return to near normal without the need for generalized restrictions. This will not only help in protecting our economy, but also it will prevent overburdening of the hospitals, which would otherwise compromise the workforce of the healthcare workers. Hence, the scientists, rather than supporting the herd immunity and allowing the spread of the virus, they have called for controlling the spread of the virus until the population can be vaccinated. Now let's see what is the concept of herd immunity and how did it come to be applied to COVID-19. Herd immunity is also known as population immunity. It is a concept used for mass vaccination and not for natural infection, according to which when a vast majority of the population is vaccinated, the total amount of virus able to spread in the whole population is very less, so that every individual in the population need not be vaccinated to be protected, which helps ensure that the vulnerable groups who cannot be vaccinated are also kept safe. Now, these vulnerable groups who cannot be vaccinated could be because of their age, immunocompromised condition or any other debilitating diseases. The percentage of people who need to have antibodies in order to achieve herd immunity against a particular disease varies with the disease. For example, as far as measles is concerned, the percentage of people who need to have antibodies is 95%, meaning the remaining 5% will be protected by the fact that the virus will not spread among the vaccinated 95%. As far as polio is concerned, it is 80%. Thus, this concept of achieving herd immunity through safe and effective vaccine makes the diseases rarer as well as saves life. So the point is, herd immunity is about controlling the spread of virus through vaccination and not by allowing the spread of the virus, as it has been very much proposed recently in case of COVID-19. Many medical professionals in fact hate the term herd immunity and prefer to call it herd protection because it does not confer the actual immunity to the pathogen. Rather, it just reduces the probability that the vulnerable groups will come into contact with the pathogen. Now let's see how the concept of herd immunity got applied to COVID-19. In May, the Brazilian city of Manaus was devastated by a huge outbreak of COVID-19. Hospitals were overwhelmed and the city was digging new graves in the surrounding forests. But by August, something had shifted. In spite of relaxing the social distancing requirements by the end of June, the city of 2 million had reduced its number of deaths per day from 120 to nearly zero. In the month of September, two groups of researchers concluded from their studies that during the first wave, more than 60% of the population in the city got infected. Hence, the number of people who were not infected and hence vulnerable to the virus was too low to sustain new outbreaks, a phenomenon called herd immunity. Such studies from Manaus, together with comparable arguments from parts of Italy that were hit hard early in the pandemic, together supported the concept of herd immunity. According to the proponents of herd immunity, letting most of the society return to normal while taking steps to protect those who are at risk of severe disease will allow the coronavirus to run its normal course. But epidemiologists have rejected the concept of herd immunity in COVID-19 because according to them, surrendering to the virus is not a defensible plan. They say that we have not been able to do it in the history too with natural infection, but only through mass vaccination, and it will not only lead to catastrophic loss of life, but it will also lead to unnecessary and unacceptable human suffering. Now, if we are to enumerate the objections to the herd immunity approach in COVID-19, the first one of them would be the concept of herd immunity through community transmission of the virus rests on an unproven assumption that the persons who have suffered from the virus are immune to it. For SARS-CoV-2, some kind of functional immunity seems to follow the infection. But to understand the duration and effects of the immune response, we have to follow the people longitudinally, say for a few years, and we are still in our early days because the virus is a novel coronavirus. We are still learning about the immunity to COVID-19. Many people who are infected with the virus do develop antibodies in the first few weeks of the infection, but we don't know how strong or how lasting the immunity is, nor is there any foolproof method to measure the immunity to the virus. Researchers can test whether people have antibodies specific to SARS-CoV-2, but they still don't know how long any immunity may last. In recent months, there have also been reports of people getting reinfected with COVID-19 after an initial infection. And if that is the case, that people get reinfected with the virus within a year, then we will never achieve herd immunity through natural transmission. And more importantly, there are obvious ethical objections to allowing the spread of the disease in the community, killing many and leaving many others with long-term health consequences. Death is only a part of the equation, but those who even survive the disease do suffer from various medical and financial consequences as well as long-term lingering health effects known as long COVID. And as we had talked about the Brazilian city of Manaus, where there was a slowdown in the month of August, the number of cases seemed to surge again. And this surge contradicts the speculation that the population in Manaus has reached herd immunity. Coming to the herd immunity in India, only 6.6% of the Indian population has contracted the virus, according to the National Seroprevalence Test conducted in the months of August and September. So it seems quite unlikely that the Indian population has reached the herd immunity threshold for COVID-19. That means if measures to slow the spread of the virus are relaxed, there are high chances of national resurgence of the infection. The next question would be, could some localities in India have reached herd immunity? The answer would be some badly hit areas like the slums within the cities could have reached herd immunity. However, these areas are not yet closed. There are always chances of importing new infections from outside into these localities, which means that the vulnerable groups in these localities are not still completely protected in spite of reaching herd immunity. The head of the World Health Organization has also ruled out the herd immunity approach to coronavirus pandemic. According to him, seroprevalence tests have suggested that just 10% of the population in most countries have yet contracted the virus, and thus a vast majority of the population still remains vulnerable to the virus. Hence, letting COVID-19 circulate unchecked means allowing unnecessary infections, death and suffering. Further, he added that never in the history of public health herd immunity has been used as a method to respond to an outbreak or an epidemic and not at all a pandemic. World Health Organization is hopeful that the countries will use targeted interventions depending upon their local needs so as to prevent the countries going into large-scale lockdowns which would affect the financial and social security of the nations. Furthermore, rather than allowing the spread of the virus, there are always chances to slow the spread of the virus. A slower epidemic would be less deadly. As well, our hospitals would not be overwhelmed with sick people and we would get enough time to reduce the number of infections in our community till the mass vaccination becomes available. According to experts, there is no magic wand. We have to face the reality. Never before we have reached herd immunity to a novel virus with natural infection, and SARS-CoV-2 is unfortunately not different. Vaccination is the only ethical path to herd immunity. How many people need to be vaccinated and how often depends upon several factors, including how effective the vaccine is and how lasting the immunity is. Though people are understandably frustrated with the social distancing measures, these are the best tools available for us until a vaccine is made available. It is not inevitable that we all should get the infection. There are always chances to be more hopeful, and we can absolutely save lives by slowing the spread of the virus, by promoting social distancing, by testing and contact tracing, as well building up the health system to cope up with the pandemic. As far as the availability of the vaccine is concerned, there are reports that the vaccine would be made by the end of this year. But according to the WHO chief scientist Dr. Soumya, the vaccines would be available in the market only by March 2021. That's all for today. Thank you.